What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Today we're going to explore the epidemic of bullying in Korea, right? The epidemic that's causing children to not have such a great experience in school, and because of the social society that encourages this level of bullying or likes to ignore this type of bullying, even though in Korea they have made some changes as of late to purposefully disenfranchise those who take bullying too far, who has a bullying record, right? Which is a good step, right? But, what I want to explore is, why is it that these children feel the need to bully in school to that level? Now, I know there's bullying in every school. Every school has bullying. Every society has bullying. Children bully. Children do this, right? But as adults, we should have structures, right, to quell that to a certain extent. And in Korea, right, it's taken to a whole nother level. Right, and I was asked to do this video because somebody said do more on this particular topic. And, I watch a lot of Korean, I'm not boycotting that because it's already been paid for on Netflix, right? So I watch, the Korean shows and the Japanese shows and the Asian show, the Chinese shows. And one thread, right, about these Asians is the relationship they have with their parents, right? Including the successful ones, the children who have successful parents. Right, how the parents are workaholics because it seems like they worship money in the pursuit of power over wholesome, healthy family relations, right? And the man themselves, the culture of the Koreans, along with a lot of other Asians, is to basically work yourself to death, literally, right, for your honor and for your pride of your name and all that stuff. And society is also set up to where a lot of times the father can't even be around, the mother can't be around, and children are raising themselves, right? And then in the cases where children are well off, their parents are never around anyway, so the children are in fact raising themselves. And you can see this manifested in their anime, in their movies, how they will show you in their creative works how their family and relationship dynamics work. And you can see they leave the father out of the picture a lot. There's a serious conflict with Korean fathers, and their children, right? And along with other Asians. And, the mother tends to really be like a single mother, even though there's a husband, right? Or they're a single mother because just like everybody else, Koreans have deadbeat dads who impregnate women and don't take care of them. And then there's a system that protects the deadbeat dad. So you got these children growing up in households with no love, right? No love that as a black person you consider that's love, where only discipline and maximum control is the rule of the day, right? And women are purposely subjugated by their men, right, as they fight for their own rights and freedoms within those particular countries, and they're raising boys by themselves who already starting off with complexes. Then they go to school, and the system allows them to take advantage, as they have that terrible test-taking predatory culture, which makes parents attack the teachers instead of disciplining their unruly, spoiled child sometimes, or their child that they don't know because they don't even talk to their children or get to know their children in any meaningful way, right? So their children go to school, right, and they reflect their frustrations at home from their absent parents, and they bully. Bullies are weak people, right? Bullies are weak people. Despite how they come off, they're weak, and they're looking for acceptance. They're looking for love. They're looking for someone to notice them. And sometimes they formulate little gangs within the classroom. And this happens everywhere, but particularly in Korean society, the systems make it so it enables these individuals, especially if they have a parent that's a politician, a movie star, somebody big. And so this student who's already emotionally and psychologically damaged from his upbringing, whether he has all the money in the world, he goes to school and he watches his father dominate and be heartless and heartless towards mom, and he watches mom, then the mom is vicious and heartless towards the school and doesn't care about what the teachers have to say, hostile towards the teachers just in case their child gets a not so perfect grade. So the children are empowered by their parents who don't seem to care about them too much, seemingly, but yet only care about their accomplishments and achievements. Well, they'll show energy, and so the student go there and they can talk shit to the teacher. What teacher gonna do, huh? Because I know that all I gotta do is complain, and the society is gonna come down on the teacher, and I'm gonna win. right? So that creates a hostile situation for teachers. And I know American teachers are going through something similar in America, right? And that's with systems that, you know, may have overstepped when it comes to protecting children, because children do need protection. I understand there were systems that put in place to protect children in America, but some of those systems have not been doing anything but enabling children to become ineffective adults, right? And so, you know, but in the Korean case, since it's so systematic and it's so prevalent, that they're creating a system of young adults who are mentally ill, who are being bullied or are bullies, and then you throw them in this real world and they're not prepared, and they're incomplete adults. They're adults who can't function in society outside of their bubble. Like, how can a Korean who's a perpetual bully go to another country where he doesn't have that leverage and think he's gonna bully somebody else? Huh? How can you do? How does that translate to another country? No Korean man is gonna go to another country and bully anybody else. But in that country, they're God King, and they'll do it there. And Korea is small, right? So you can imagine with the data, the ratio per population, that's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of issues that they got to deal with, and a lot of that stuff makes it way over here to America, where since their culture says be silent when being bullied, when you're being oppressed, don't say anything. You know, save face. So, you know, they allow bullies to bully. The system allows bullies to bully, right? The social system allows bullies to bully. Even if they create a laws and rules to regulate it, it's already part of the social fabric of the people. So bullies are going to bully. Girls are going to bully. And then they take that cultural bullying practice and they bring that to different places where it manifests itself into altercations. Because that mindset, and you become an adult and you grew up like that, and you try to cohabitate with the rest of the world, especially you try to cohabitate with people who are not like that. Like, Africans are not, we're communal to a fault. African people have different sets of problems, even though sexual assault and bullying is also a problem in Africa, right? Like every place. But I'm saying, like, the main problems that's really stagnating a community, and the bullying epidemic in Korea is staggering. And it goes to show you these people in their own places where it's just them and there's no excuses. These people can be just as terrible as anybody else. So they don't have any room to complain and talk about what everybody else is doing, unless they're gonna talk and complain about what they're doing and addressing the issue, you know, on the human platform. Because, you know, on the internet, you know, the planet, you know, the country of the internet is global. All right, it's a global country. Everybody on the internet, we are all on the same landmass. Therefore, we all have access to each other's information, data, dirt, what's in their closet. So I just think it's fair that everybody gets some equal attention, because everybody pays attention. Let's talk about what the problem is going on in the Korean community, and only if they just fix that, it would solve a lot of the problems that they have, and they wouldn't have to project a lot of that toxic culture onto other people or affect the hard work of African Americans in America simply because they're bringing their toxic culture to America. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think in the comment sections. Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
If you watch Korean dramas like Weak Hero or Teach You a Lesson, you will notice that the bullied victims, they often stay silent. A lot of people think that they could handle Korean bullies, but if you lived in Korea, you would probably stay silent too.
With your Western brain,
It's probably hard to comprehend. You've been taught to fight back, stand your ground, and if you don't, you're a pussy. But in Korean cultures, there's two main factors that's preventing these kids from fighting back. Number one, the main advice a lot of adults give children in Korea is 참아, which means just endure. And number two, they don't want to get socially isolated. The main bullies are called 일진, and they basically run the classroom. They usually have really powerful and rich parents. Maybe they're really good looking, really good at sports, really good at singing. It could be any one of those. But they basically run the whole classroom, sometimes even the teachers. And if you stand up for yourself, you're basically getting in the way of the education for the other students and disrupting the flow of the class.
Hey, what about the bullies? Aren't they disrupting the class?
Yes, but like I said, they run the classroom. And a lot of these victims don't want to be socially isolated, especially at that age. And in the Korean language, we call that 왕따, or in more modern terms, 진따. You might have noticed from Teach You a Lesson, the guy with the stick, that is what they want to avoid. So it's much easier to stay silent, just take it, and hopefully it passes by. Because if you did fight for yourself, that hurts more emotionally. And I know this firsthand because I fought for myself, and the teachers joined in the kicking, would kick me and be like, why don't you just get up? hurry up so that we could continue class. And my parents also told me to just chama because the teacher would call and say like I was disrupting the class. It's gonna feel like the whole world is against you. And when you're a kid under 20 years old, it's just so much harder to not care about what people think, not care about what the world thinks. So physical violence sucks and that heals over time, but emotional pain, that's life-lasting. So let me ask you again, would you still fend for yourself and stand your ground if and when the whole world is against you? Much harder question now.
Most people think that K-dramas like Weak Hero, Teach You a Lesson, and The Glory are just fictional stories. But as someone who attended school in Korea from kindergarten through 2nd grade, I could confidently tell you the bullying is real. I talked about my experience with Korean bullies about a year ago, and you could tap this right here depending on what platform you're watching this on. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's go back to talking about Korean schools and Korean bullies. Before 2011, a lot of Korean teachers had so much power and authority, they often abused it. Korean teachers back then would accept bribery, beat kids, and basically were bullies themselves. But Korea banned direct corporal punishment from schools as recent as 2011. The current rule dictates that Korean teachers must use educational guidance instead of using tools or their own physical body to inflict discipline. This is the frustrating part, not just Korean people, but human nature in general. We tend to overcorrect bad behavior, and now the power dynamic has completely shifted. Now the students and parents have so much power. Korean students could smoke during class, they could be straight up disrespectful to Korean teachers, and abuse other children, bully them without facing any kind of punishment. And that is why I personally love the Korean drama Teach You a Lesson. I truly believe that we need to find a good balance of using the right type of discipline to punish bad behavior. And the Korean drama Teach You a Lesson really tackles that. And it's not just the bullies, but the teachers too, or sometimes even the parents. And now I'm curious about your thoughts, especially if you're a teacher, a counselor, or anybody who oversees students.
Did you know that the country of South Korea has a problem with bullying, but it doesn't manifest the same way that it does in the West? Instead, it's often referred to as an invisible war, and people in the country aren't physically being aggressive. Instead, it's much more mental, and this works in schools and even the workplace. And this includes a single student in a classroom being ostracized, or everybody laughing at a joke that you're not in on. And to really understand why this happens, we need to understand how stressful South Korean life can be, as a teenager and even as an adult. And when we talk about academic stress, students can sometimes be trapped in a classroom for more than 16 hours per day. And when there's no hobbies, there's no sports, bullying becomes an activity that some individuals choose to do. And we also can't forget that the South Korean educational system is extremely competitive, and students are often ranked between 1 to 30. And this creates a hierarchy in the classroom when it comes to your ranking, your appearance, and even money. And being bullied in South Korea is much more invisible compared to the United States, where it tends to be more physical, aggressive, as well as easy to tell. Instead, a student might be added to a group chat and insulted again and again, and even re-added if he or she leaves. And because that's very hard to tell, it's often referred to as an invisible war, and South Korea has a huge problem. And in 2026, students who are found to have a bullying record are even prevented from being accepted into top universities. And when many parts of South Korean life acts like a pressure cooker, whether we're talking about work or education, it makes sense why people are so aggressive. And sometimes it leads to behaviors that wouldn't happen in any other environments.
We need to talk about bullying in East Asian countries because it is crazy. I'm watching The Glory right now. It is a K-drama. You can watch it on Netflix. It is amazing. But it is a story about a female student who gets bullied by their classmates. And it really made me draw connections of my schooling experience and what we see in American media. And for me, growing up in a predominantly white area, bullying for me has always been about race. And if you're a minority in a white area, you probably feel the same. But in American media, while bullying is prevalent, it's always dramatized, you know, like getting shoved in a locker, lunch money, racist remarks, right? But the shit that they do in those East Asian countries, oh my God. Me learning that what happened in Glory was real, and the fact that it's not even like the craziest story, is insane to me. The fact that they can make a child go through actual hell and they can't do anything about it. The teachers can't do anything because they like run the school or something like that. It just makes me like mind blown. And the stories that I have heard from my friends, my international student friends that I made in college, solidified that it is horrible to go through schooling over there, in my opinion. And the fact that Korean, Japanese, and Chinese media is so big right now really puts like a shadow over like the skeletons in their closet. Like, let me know. I don't know what to feel. I just feel a lot of anger and like hate. And I don't want to feel like that because it just, I don't know, it's raising my cortisol levels.
Let's talk about bullying in Korea. I went to Korean elementary, middle, and high school, and I was fortunate enough to go to schools in nicer areas, so I personally didn't experience or witness any severe bullying that we often see in K-dramas, but I definitely heard many horrible stories about bullying, aka 학교폭력, that happened in other schools. It has been the topic that has been around for decades, and I honestly don't see it getting better because of how weak the justice system in Korea is. The victims almost never get their justice because a lot of times the bullies don't get enough punishment, which get them to think that they can get away with whatever the fuck they do. Also, there is actually a form of bullying that I see happen a lot more often, which is called unta. So what is unta? It basically means indirect exclusion, which means nobody wants to be associated with you and they all just ignore you. So it's basically an emotional bullying, and I see that happen way more often than physical, abuse type of bullying because those might not necessarily happen in every school, but I see that happening in almost every single school.
It was horrible, like the way they bullied them. Like the bully used to steal the guy's textbooks and throw it out the window.
Jesus
So you know
Christ.
how, like how the teacher says, like, okay, so let's look at our textbook, and he doesn't have the textbook, so he gets hit. And they would like throw gum and like spit on his head, back of his head every day.
Jesus.
During class. I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, but this actually happened. The most violent bullies, they were like a circle. Like it was during high school. I suddenly got a call during like yaja, like the voluntary work time. It was a call from the middle school class president, and he said like 3 of those bullies are dead now. And I heard that they stole a motorcycle. The police were on them and they were like going reverse on the reverse side of the road, trying to evade the police. They got into car crash and they just like instantly from there. I'll be totally honest. Everyone who got that message back then had the split second in their mind saying, oh, they got what they deserve. This is karma. Yeah. And nobody went to their funerals. And yeah, the class representative just went and took a short visit, but
I pray all of the billionaires who exploit the lower class fucking die. And they get licked down, put in the ground, dug up, and then fucking told to die again. Bitch ass fuck. Fuck is you talking about? Amen.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.